I know some of you might have seen that viral story of a bread sitting on a chair for 2 whole months without being refrigerated, without getting spoiled. Now, I want you to imagine a bread kept on a chair for months, still looking fresh, no mold, no smell, still looking soft. And honestly, that should make you to pause for a second. We need to rethink actually what we eat, what goes into this body. Because what kind of bread that refuses to die? Real bread don't behave like that. Because of the way too much preservative they use to preserve this food, is something that we should be worried about. Now, first, how long should a healthy bread last? Now, listen up. A freshly baked bread, natural loaf that is just made with your flour, your yeast, your sugar, your salt with water should last about 2 to 3 days at room temperature, or maybe up to 5 to 7 days in the fridge. After that, you start seeing mold, dryness, or even sour smell. Now, we need to understand that traditional bread are made with simple ingredients: your flour, your yeast, water, salt, sugar. That is it, simple ingredient. Now, listen up. When you bake with such kind of ingredients, or maybe you buy bread from a local bakery that does this thing with just simple ingredient, no too much preservative, it behaves like real food. It spoils. I know what, that is a good sign, because microorganisms recognize it as food. So if bread can last weeks or months without getting spoiled, then there is a problem, because something is helping it to resist nature, and that something is preservative or additive. Now listen up, let's break down some of these chemicals they use in processing this bread that makes it to last weeks, months without spoilage. And number one on our list is calcium propionate. In fact, this one is one of the most common preservative in bread, and its job is to stop mold from growing. That is why bread can sit for weeks without spoiling. Now, regulatory bodies, that's people that controls food and drugs, something like NAFDAC, they say that these chemicals is safe in small amount. But what happens when the producer put it in excess? That is why some of this bread can last for months, which is not good. When put in small amounts, when controlled in small amounts, might not really harm us. But when put in large amounts, that bread can stay for 2 whole months without growing mold, then there is a problem. If mold, which is a natural organism, cannot grow on it easily, that tells you how powerful this chemical actually is. Another preservative used in processed bread is sodium benzoate. It helps to prevent fungal growth, bacterial growth, but in certain conditions, especially when combined with vitamin C, it can form benzene, a compound that is linked with cancer. Now, the risk depends on the quantity and condition, but again, it raises a question about long-term exposure. When you are consistently exposed to this chemical, it can increase your risk of having cancer. And the next is potassium bromate. In fact, this one is very controversial. It helps to make dough to rise. In fact, growing up, there was a period that anytime my mom wants to send me to buy a bread, he said any bread that has bromate, don't buy. That was back in those days. Bromate helps to improve the texture of the bread. It gives that bread that soft and fluffy look. But here is the issue about using this chemical. It has been banned in many countries. In many countries, you are not permitted to use potassium bromate to make your bread, because according to research, these chemicals has been linked to animal cancer. That's cancer in animals. In countries where potassium bromate is still used to process bread, or maybe it's poorly regulated, this becomes a public health concern, a serious health concern. Now, let's think about this logically. If your bread can survive heat, air exposure, time without changing, then imagine how it sits in your body. What exactly is doing inside of your body? The hidden danger is not just one chemical, but constant exposure over time. When you keep on consuming this bread, some persons, they take bread every day. In fact, bread and tea is their breakfast, so they eat this food every day. So imagine consuming this chemical every day. Probably not a big deal when you eat it once in a while, but eating it every single day, that's where problems start to build up. You start experiencing issues like kidney failure, gut issues like gut problem, toxin load, and possible long-term health risks. Now you ask yourself, why is it that cancer is on the rise currently now? What is it that we are doing wrong that our forefathers has not been doing? What is it that we have been eating our forefathers has not been eating? My dear, you have your answer. The preservative, the things that we keep consuming. Imagine having food that can last for months. Now, eating that food, taking it into your body and it sits in your body, just imagine. Another angle people don't talk much about is your gut health. Now, listen, your gut is filled with good bacteria that helps to digest food and also helps in immunity. Now, imagine constantly introducing food in your gut that are designed to keep bacteria and prevent growth. Now, remember, your gut is made of billions, trillions of bacteria that helps to digest food, that helps for immunity, that can disrupt your gut balance, affect digestion, and weaken your immune system. Now, here is the real question we should ask ourselves. If mold even struggles to grow on these breads, what makes you think that this is completely harmless? So how do you protect yourself? For my bread lovers, you don't have to panic or stop eating bread completely. You just have to be smarter. If you can bake your bread at home, that would be much better. But if you cannot, now if you go to a supermarket or whatever or wherever you want to buy your bread, check the ingredients. Choose bread that have short ingredient list. Avoid bread that have too many chemicals written on it, too many ingredients or too many chemicals that is included. Buy your bread from trusted local bakeries, not just from any kind of bakeries, but the ones that you can trust. Now, not any bread you see on the road or on the supermarket you start buying. Make sure that you have trust on this product, then you buy it. Eat fresh bread if possible. Don't eat bread that has long storage life. Don't get it twisted. Real bread is supposed to grow molds, get spoiled, change texture. In fact, that is a proof that this is a real food. Not everything that looks fresh is safe. Sometimes the longer a food lasts, the more you should question it. Your health is built on what you eat daily. So next time you buy a bread that never spoils, ask yourself a question. Is this science experiment or a food? Because if that's a food, it is supposed to get spoiled. Food are meant to be spoiled. Anything other than that, then there's a chemical acting on it to help it to last longer. Imagine eating something that a chemical has acted upon that prevents mold or bacteria from growing. This food is supposed to be breaking down by microorganisms. And remember, your gut are filled with microorganisms that are meant to break down this food that we eat. Then taking in something that is supposed to last longer than it should is a serious health concern. If you're a lover of bread, you like eating bread, then you need to check on what you are eating naturally. If you find this video helpful, don't forget to give a thumbs up, like, subscribe, and share. Bye.